You fought tooth and nail for that deal, and when you followed up a day after if the contract was sent, the answer you get is, there has got to be a better way to send out contracts. I mean, it's the same information that you're sending out again and again, with the only difference being that the company you're sending it to is different, the rates that you've promised them are different, and there might be a few things here and there that you've agreed on as exceptions, but overall, the contract doesn't really change. So that's exactly what we built out. We built a workflow that basically creates your contract from start to finish and even sends them an email with the contract attached. So what would usually take your admin staff maybe days because they have a whole list of or a pile of documents that they have to make and then send to clients gets taken care of in seconds. This is what the automation does. We're using an example of a hotel where the sales manager or the coordinator simply goes into a form, adds in some information like what is the name of the company that they're sending it to, what is their address, what room rates they're offering them, what is the name of the person that they're sending the contract to, and what their email is. The next node will basically copy your template. Now, the template is something that you have to make in advance. This is the template that we already created. Now, the reason that we want to make this in advance and we don't want AI to create the contract from the get-go every single time is because large language models have a habit of hallucinating, and we want to be sure that the contract that we're creating is spot on. So we basically already created an agreement that it will insert values according to what you put inside the form in specific places. Like over here, we have company name, the company address, what rates we're giving them for each room type, and their name at the end. And that's basically it. This is a very simplified version of a contract or a corporate contract, but it's basically to just give you an idea. So once the automation copies that file, we then move over to the next node, which is an HTTP request, where we have this JSON right here that basically takes the variables that we put inside our agreement, these over here, the variables, and updates them according to what we added on the Google form, on the form that we submitted. Don't worry too much about the code because I'm going to share this workflow for free inside my community. Download it, use it, update it however you want. The next node is basically we're going to download this file. And the reason we're downloading the file is we still have a few things to do with it before we can send it to our customers. Namely, we want to make sure that it's a PDF and not a editable format like docx. This time asking it to also make sure that if it's a Google Doc, we want it changed to a PDF. And if it's a Google Drawing, JPEG, MS PowerPoint, CSV, whatever. Now, the next part of this automation is writing the email. This is where we use AI to craft a bespoke or personalized email to the customer saying, hey, thanks for requesting this information. Here's your contract. We've attached it to this email and yada, yada. Over here, we download the file that we created over here. And the reason we're downloading it is because we need to include the attachment, or we need to include it as an attachment to when we're sending it to the customer. This is basically what the email looks like. And over here. So dear prospect name, blah, 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 and contract test company. So let's go ahead and try out the automation. First thing we're going to do is we will click on execute workflow. We get this pop-up of a form where we say the company name. Let's call it test company, test building, test street. I am so creative. Test block, test city, test country. Room rates, say 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, sending it to yabba dabba doo, and email is test@example.com. Right? We've submitted the form. Now the automation gets to work. And the HTTP request is going on, and we are uploading the file. AI is doing its thing. We upload the file and we're creating a draft. Let's see if it created a draft. Go ahead and refresh that. And the draft basically says, Dear Yabba Dabba Doo, thank you for your interest in our corporate hotel rates at Khizr's Hotel. We appreciate the opportunity to serve you and your team. Please find attached the corporate contract rates. And over here, you might not see it in the screen, but we have the contract rates attached right here. So we can download the contract, and we uploaded it. And there we have it. You have a contract agreement between Khizr's Hotel and test company, here and referred to as company, at test building, test street, test block, blah, blah, blah. The room rates are exactly how we put them. And for test company, in the signature, we have test company. So it's dynamically updated all those fields. This kind of flow is a huge time saver, especially if your sales process or onboarding involves sending contracts to over your customers. Let's get into how we'll build this automation. So the first node over here is going to be your form. N8N form, you select that and go to the triggers and select the N8N trigger. Over here, we're just going to put in something basic like form title is test form. This is a test. You add a form element. These are your questions on the form. First would be company name, required field, add form. Then over here we put company address, and this is again going to be a text field, required field, add form element, room rate 1. This is going to be a number, required field, and then we do that for up to 8 rooms because that's what we had in our original flow. We had them named as something else, but you know what? Now that I've shown you how you can build the form out, let's just copy paste the whole thing. So we go here, Control C, Control V. And over here, you'll see that in the authentication, we have none. Form title is corporate rates for hotel. Fill the details to get a contract pre-made. Company name, company address, city view, single occupancy room only, all the way till email of the person to whom we're sending the contract. Once we have that set up, the next node that you want to set up is going to be your Google Drive node, which basically copies the original document that you made, which is your template. Because remember that we don't want to always update the same template. We want to create a different document because once a template is updated, then you don't have a template anymore with variables to actually update through the flow. So in this instance, we're going to add a document from our already connected Google Drive. You go to select file and look for the contract template. So I'm just going to search template over here and see what we get. We don't get anything. So let's say that we want contract. See, this is our template, Khizr Hotel Corporate Contract. And the file name is going to pull in from the form. So to do that, let's just go ahead and answer the questions over here. Say test, company address, test company, room rate. Let's just sending to at test.example.com, and the email is test.example.com. In the sending to field, we needed to add a name. So we're here to test person. We submit the form and we have data. Over here, we're going to add in a file name, which is going to be contract, and then the name of the company. Make sure that you have expression selected, contract, and the name of the company, and that's it. Execute this step. And if you go to your Google Drive, you shall notice that we have a contract with the company name that we selected earlier, which is contract test, because the name of the company is test, and this is our contract that it's created. Now, the next thing that we need to do is to make sure that these are saving inside our folder, and there you have it. It's inside the folder. Now, the next step is to actually set up the HTTP request. The HTTP request that we're using is basically an API call to Google Docs, but it's a node that isn't natively supported on N8N. So what we're going to do is we'll select the HTTP request, and over here we'll put in post. But we need to know which URL or which API we're going to be calling. To do that, all you have to do is search for Google Docs API documentation, go to the documentation over here, and then search for the relevant document, the relevant link that we're looking for. We're going to be using the batch update, which has this as the URL. So go ahead and Control C and put in so this is the full URL. Control C, Control V. It's going to be a post request. As you can see over here, it's a post request. And in authentication, you need to make sure that your Google Docs authentication is selected. So I'm just going to go ahead and put Google Docs over here. And our account shows up. And this is the main part. We're going to send a body in the form of JSON, and we need to select using JSON below. I'm going to provide you with a link to download this workflow, which will include the JSON that we're using. So for the purposes of this walkthrough, let's just go ahead and copy the whole code. What this code basically does is it takes your form data, the one that you filled out over here, and it puts it into your template inside the fields, which we set as variables. The variable fields are the ones over here inside curly brackets. So the company name is a variable field, the company address is a variable field, all the rates are variable fields, and the company name over here is also a variable field. So what this script does is it replaces all of these fields with data that we entered on the form. We can go ahead and execute that step as a test. So you notice how we got this error? That's basically because the fields that we're using can't be found inside the data that's been run on this particular flow. That's because the data that we're referencing inside the original code belongs to the flow over here. So all we need to do in this case is go to your JSON, and right where it says replace text, we want to replace this text with, so this text is going to get replaced by this one over here. Let's go ahead and delete that and just drag in the company name over here. The next part we're going to change is the company address. And that's it. Now we execute the step again. So there was a little bit of a syntax error that we had to fix, but you don't have to worry about that because you're copying this workflow. Let's go ahead and execute the step again. And this time the issue is that we didn't add a document ID over here. So over inside the URL, you need to make sure that where it says document, you replace that with the document ID from Google Docs. So go ahead and click here. Just drag and drop your document ID there. And that should fix it. Let's go ahead and execute the step. And there you have it. Data has been automatically updated on the new file that the flow created for us. Let's take a look. Yep, 50, 100, 150. The name of the company is Test Company. Because there's hotel, test here and after. Yeah, looks good. Okay. Now, the next part of this flow is to download the file and then upload it again to your dashboard. The reason that we want to do this, or upload it again to your Google Drive, the reason that we want to do this is we want to make sure that the file is saved as a PDF, because if it's saved as a doc, then that means the person who's receiving the document on the other end can change anything and sign it then, right? So to do that, just go to Google Drive again, select download a file from this section over here. From list, we're going to change it to by ID, and we need to copy the ID from the previous copy file node of Google Sheets, Google Drive. And in the options section, we want to add the option to Google File Conversion. Add conversion. And over here, you'll see that Google Docs should be converted to PDF, Google Drawings, etc. We're not really concerned about the other parts. We only want to make sure that Google Docs are converted to PDF. Now, when you execute this step, you'll notice that it's been downloaded as a PDF because in the MIME type over here, it says application/PDF. Okay, now the next step is for us to upload this back to our dashboard, to our Google Drive. And to do that, we just go to Google Drive and we search for upload a file. After you upload a file, go ahead and keep everything the same over here. Just change the file name to, let's say we want to call this contract _ company name. Be sure to add the .pdf extension, because otherwise when you attach the file inside your email later on, it's going to look weird. So just go ahead and do that. Parent drive is from my drive, and parent drive is still the root folder. You can make the parent drive the document bot. Doesn't really matter. Go ahead and execute that step. And once that's done, we should be able to see a contract test.pdf inside our Google Drive folder. And it's right there. Okay, now towards the finishing of this workflow, the last step is your OpenAI model. Now you can add an OpenAI model or you can add an LLM chain over here. Let's just keep it simple and send an OpenAI message. So search for OpenAI and then go for send a message, a model. From the model drop-down list, I use 4o mini, but you probably already know that if you've been watching my videos, but who really has? And in the prompt, we are going to need 2 prompts over here. 3, in fact, a system, user, and assistant. The system prompt, add a message, is basically telling or giving the AI node instructions on what it is and what it'll be doing for us. I'm not going to write it all over again, so I'm just going to take this, Control C, and put it in over here. Now, if you go to view the prompt, it basically goes like, you are a corporate sales coordinator at your name is, your role is to draft a professional email to a prospect who has expressed interest in our corporate hotel rates. The email should do this, and do this. Pretty simple. Now, inside the user prompt, this is where the AI model knows which information to use. So to do that, remember that you're not really putting in all of the information that you gathered from the questionnaire inside the email. The email is basically just to tell them a little bit of information about what this email is about and like, thank you for requesting contract rates and yada yada. So the prompt over here is going to look a little bit like the company name is, let's just go down here and drag that into, why do I always forget to click expressions? Company name, right? And this is going to be your point of contact at the company, who is basically the name that you have on the form, which is sending to. And we're going to also add the starting rate of the contract. And I'll show you why that's important in the next part. So we have this, and inside the assistant prompt, this is where we have to define the structure of the message that we want to get from the model. And we just go ahead and paste in this JSON. Now go ahead and execute this step, wait for a little while, and there you have it. Now you have all of because we set the structure over here in a JSON format, you'll have the message, the role, the content, everything as a separate sort of log that you can pull into your email. So we made a little bit of a mistake in the previous part where we ran the last message model node. We forgot to click on output content as JSON. And the reason that's important is because the data needs to come into separate sort of sections like subject, recipient, body, so that we can actually pass it over to Google Drive. Sorry, Gmail. The next step is for us to actually download the file that we uploaded to our Google Drive. And the reason we have to do that is because we're attaching the file to our email. And in order to attach the file to the email, it needs to be inside the workflow. So click on upload Google Drive, search for Google Drive, and then go ahead and search for download a file. In the file section, just click on by ID. And over here, you need to select upload file. Just go ahead and select that ID over here and execute the step. We've downloaded the file, and now we just need to create the email that we're going to be sending. So we go for send. Let's just create a draft without sending the email. Create a draft. Subject is going to be from the chat model, which is here, subject. And email type is going to be text. And we're going to put in the body over here. And add option to email. And the to email, we're going to drag this email from the form. Execute step. Go to Gmail. And there you have the email inside our drafts. Dear test person, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, we forgot to attach the email. The most important part. Never mind. Just click on add option, click on attachments, and add attachment. The attachment is going to be from the previous node, which is data, and execute the step. So we go back to drafts, refresh the screen. And there you have it. We have the contract added to the email. That's all I had today for you folks. If you think that workflow's useful, I'd really appreciate it if you could follow, and I'll see you in the next one.